Kyle Filipowski dominates the 7th pick of the NBA draft. Was he the steal of last year's draft and the Jazz got it? It's next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for tuning in and making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps, as well as on YouTube, and we have the daily newsletter for you for free as well. On today's show, we'll look at the wackiness of the NBA, a loss that's completely inexcusable by an NBA team last night. The Western Conference standings continue to be wacky. A huge game for the Utah Jazz fans to root for tonight. Keyonte George has guts. That was something else. 3 really fabulous late game plays by NBA coaches in our game last night we'll look at. Whether we start with Kyle Filipowski, the 32nd pick of the NBA draft, completely schooling Donovan Clingan, the 7th pick of the draft. The Jazz have the best offensive rookie in the NBA this year. They got him at the 32nd pick of the draft. He's 7 feet tall. He's the steal of the NBA draft by the Jazz front office, and he dominated. 30 points, 18 rebounds, 5 assists last night. Kyle Filipowski is the steal of the NBA draft. Look at this draft class. It has underperformed top to bottom. Nobody's put together nights like Kyle did last night. It was against Donovan Clingan and Jabari Walker and not against top-tier guys, but it still is a night of a massive proportions. And if you start to dig into the year, this last year, and this draft class, when you look at what Kyle's done for the year, he is the best offensive player in the draft. Effective field goal percentage, Kyle's the 7th best. He's the guys playing 20 minutes a night. Zach Edey, Khalil Weir both shoot 60%, but they don't have any versatility of their game. Filipowski's at 58.2% on effective field goal percentage. His 36% three-point shooting, despite the fact that he just had a brutal slump of guys that played 20 minutes a game. Jared McCain played 23 games. Dalton Connects, the only plays 19 minutes a game, is better at 37%, and then Filipowski at 36%. Mateus Buzulis at 19 minutes a night is right behind him at 35%, but the guys who really shoot the three, Quentin Post played 40 games this year. Nobody shot the three well. He's 7 feet. He's the best three-point shooter out there. His amount he's taking is not outrageous. Obviously, the amount of games he's played, only 3 a game, so you don't want to get too far ahead of it. But understanding that, he's points per game based on his minutes played. He's 7th. He plays 7th in points per game, 16th in minutes played. His rebounding puts him at 6th in the league. His passing has him elite. Kyle Filipowski is the steal of the draft, and he just absolutely schooled Donovan Clingan last night. Let's walk through the way Kyle Filipowski went to 30 points last night in the Jazz win over the Blazers. And there's a lot of things to be impressive about. First of all, he comes in having missed 14 straight threes, and that's certainly going to be the long-term issue of whether or not this middle part of the season was a fluke or whether this shooting slump was a fluke. What I loved was the authority by which he shot the early shots with. He missed his first 2 threes. He then made one, then he airballed one, but he seemed completely unfazed by it. Will Hardy post-game talked about that he got back to a real balance of shooting and scoring and using all of his skills. He does so many things in this game. First of all, he gets 5 of his 14 field goals on fast break opportunities or offensive rebounds on fast break opportunities where he ran the floor. His first field goal of the night, he simply just outruns Donovan Clingan. And this is something at 7 feet tall that he can do. When you start to put Filipowski's offensive skill set together for a 7-footer, there are not many 7-footers in the NBA that have this skill set. So you look at his buckets, fast break. He then They aren't coming at him on three. He pulls the trigger again, buries it. Little flip shot from 4 feet out. Nice little touch shot over Walker this time, not over Clingan. Waiting in the pocket, gets it from Sexton. Quick, great hands. Doesn't have to collect himself. Doesn't have to do a lot of things. Just gets it off. He then airballs a 3, and he starts the night. He's 3 for 6 shooting. He's gotten one of those on a fast break, one of them on a little push shot, and he's hit a 3. And then he really starts to heat up. He slides on the baseline. Clingan 7'2". He catches the baseline. Has the dexterity and athleticism to go reverse side for a layup. He then misses a shot off the side. He's now 4 for 8, and he doesn't miss a shot for the rest of the night. A pick and pop 3 because Clingan's in drop. It's just an incredibly versatile aspect of his game. A stretch, truly at that point, he's playing stretch 5. This is all offensive. We'll figure out the rest of it. And this is where he becomes really special. He's playing out of the perimeter. He's being guarded by Kamara, who's going to be an all-defensive, played last night, so he could be an all-defensive team member, likely to be one of the first or second team all-defensive wings. And he's 6'8" and long. He fakes the handoff. He puts on the deck, and he comes with his left hand, rolling to the basket, and gets to the rim over Kamara. He's just athletic and strong enough that when he's going to the basket, he's got the athleticism to rise up. He doesn't have to come to the complete stop. He doesn't have to play it like a big man. It gives him a whole set of skills. Then he gets an offensive rebound pushback. Then he gets another offensive rebound pushback. And then he gets a fast break dunk. I love the fact he's running the floor and that he's there and he's leading the break on some of those plays where he's trying to get Sexton or Juzang assists and they're not making the play, and then he follows up with a dunk. Now we're into some neat stuff. Late game, similar. This is one of the great plays we'll look into here later. They loop over the top. Filipowski catches, fakes a handoff. This time he goes right-handed from a similar spot all the way to the basket and packed it to give the Jazz the tie with 3 seconds left in the ballgame. Then the Jazz had him run the pick and roll. Donovan Clingan's trying to guard him. He gets a pick from either Bryce or Keyonte, and he comes with a left hand off the pick and roll and goes all the way to the basket. And then finally, he's out on the floor, Clingan guarding him at 7'2", 7'3". It's crossed his ass over, completely shook him, and got to the rim for the dunk with space. It's pretty fabulous skill set. So he's hitting the pick and pop. He's playing with the ball in his hands. He's basically initiating a pick and roll. He's playing a handoff game with the ability to turn the circle. And if he has got the handoff game going and has the ability to go either direction on the handoff, it gets super hard for the other team to guard. It gets super hard for the other team to guard, right? So you're guarding Filipowski, and he's playing the handoff game. And if Filipowski's playing the 4, you're switching, okay? So Filipowski goes to make the handoff. Some guy's coming. You're going to be switching. That defender who's trailing the guy coming to the ball, the responsibility is now Kyle. If they're going to switch it, Kyle pulls it in. That guy goes. This guy who's guarding Filipowski takes the step out thinking the handoff's coming. Kyle just turns the corner, has the edge. He has him beat already. If you do get the switch, Kyle doesn't hand it off, or Kyle hands off, comes back with it, they flip it back, you go again. At some point, you're missing that. But having a big who can take that handoff and turn the corner with the speed that Kyle does and the ability to pass is really something. And the inverted pick and roll, I'm a huge believer in. Sure, this is against Jabari Walker, but it's also against the 7th pick of the draft, Donovan Clingan. He killed him. He killed him. Final basket of the night was an alley-oop. But that's a big-time night by Kyle Filipowski. On both postcast and on our postgame show, I talked about I was so impressed by his fortitude to pull the trigger on those early shots. But the array of skills that he showed in this game, that's big-time NBA offense. That's the steal of the NBA draft at 32. Keyonte George has guts Will Hardy, Chauncey Billups draw brilliant plays late. We're talking about it. Coming up next on Locked on Jazz. Today's edition of Locked on Jazz, a fun one, is brought to you by TurboTax. Intuit TurboTax brings you this message. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives you your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find your every deduction possible, file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All you can get, the most money back guaranteed. Now waiting, no wondering, no waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today, and you have a chance with baseball season in full swing to get into the action with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. Pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you win up to $1,000 your cash, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs. Prize Picks keeps every game exciting. Build your lineup. Aaron Judge for more than 1 home run for the week. Shohei for more than 1 stolen base. Or set the lineup with less than 60 seconds. When you win, you get payouts quick, safe, and secure. Always take advantage of Taco Tuesdays, where Prize Picks offers discounts on select player projections and even more value. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. The code's LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. We're going to look at 3 plays, late game coaching plays, because I thought they were all just crazy brilliant last night. Thank you, by the way, for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. And we do have the daily newsletter for free for you each and every day. Here at Locked on Jazz, go to lockedondaily.com and sign up for Locked on Jazz. I do want to talk about Keyonte first. Keyonte was having a pretty awful night. Again. And this really matches to a pattern that Keyonte has had where he does not follow up good performances. For whatever reason. If you go look back at Keyonte, kind of what he does after he has a monster game, his next game is usually not very good. And was showing again last night. He'd come off his career high. He went 4 of 14. He had 6 turnovers. He had just made a terrible pass to Bryce Sensabaugh. He had just had 2 driving layups that were really poor. It was not a good night for Keyonte George. I'm looking for the notes on Keyonte's following bad games, but I might have thrown it out. There's certain things you don't need to have around anymore, and there's certain things you do. And I had a bunch of notes on Keyonte and how poor he was following up games. And you know what? We don't need to have it. So I don't have it anymore. Good. I'm glad. And then he hits 2 of the most difficult threes that he'll take all year. Now, it shows his skill set. The shots he makes are so difficult. It's been a reoccurring theme on the show that he's got to find a way to take easier shots if he's ever going to be efficient. But boy, those are guts. We're 2 years into the Keyonte George experiment. And you can focus on every negative you want to. He gives them all to you. I'm not lying. I saw that pass to Bryce late in the game was terrible. Even getting picked for the 7th turnover of the game wasn't great. He gives you all of the material you want if you want to be negative. But you cannot deny the skill set and the talent that is in there. Chris Jones, his Jazz assistant's working hard with him. He mentioned it post-game in our interview. He really has just a remarkable array of skills He also, I would say, and I think this really matters, still seems to really be enjoying playing. There were moments this year where he did not have a lot of excitement and zest. And I think kind of similarly to the way Walker figured out, and maybe I'll talk to Key before the year's over about this. The way Walker kind of figured out how to enjoy the NBA this year, which, last year I don't think he did. I think Key's kind of figured that out this year. That's a big deal. This is not as much fun as it was to play college. This is not as much fun as it was to play in high school. This is hard. And it wears them down, and failure beats them up. And I think Key might be moving through that a tiny bit with a little bit of an understanding of how this works and what's going on. Those 2 shots he took late. Level of difficulty, 9.8 on one of them, and the other one just lining up Chris Murray, who is pretty flat-footed, and knowing he had him was, I thought, pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. So, super impressive there by Key. All right, let's see if we can find this, see if the NBA website, I checked these earlier, and they should work. There were 3 out-of-timeout plays last night, 2 by Will and 1 by Chauncey. And, I think I talk about this a lot. I have so much respect for NBA coaching. It's really quite awesome. And these plays exemplified that. So let's see if we can let's see if we can share those with you on the YouTube. I'll walk you through on audio. I don't think it'll be a problem. All right, let's see what's coming up I want to check what's on the screen. It's a little small. If I make it bigger, it gets huge, but let's see what it looks like. Oh, that's better. Okay. So this is the first play. This is going to be Johnny Juzang, right corner 3. The Jazz open with 3 guys in the backcourt. So both Chauncey and Will Hardy do some really interesting things on inbound formations. This is what's changed the most this year in the NBA. I try to watch the final 5 minutes of every close game. You guys know that. This is what's changed the most. So right now, the Jazz have 3 guys in a straight line in the backcourt. I don't remember seeing the Jazz practice this play, to be honest with you, this year. I'm going to ask Will about this postgame or pregame. Filipowski's at the top of the key. The Jazz start with a dead sprint, and you'll watch that they kind of circle all underneath each other, which creates the need for switching. So Keyonte cuts to left. Sexton's not in the game. Sensabaugh goes from the outside left. So it's the 3 guys in line are Sensabaugh's on the far side. The ball's coming in front of next to the Jazz bench with Will Hardy. Sensabaugh, let's go from the sideline where the ball is. It goes Keyonte, Juzang, Sensabaugh. So they start running, all 3 of them, and Juzang runs left. So does Keyonte, runs underneath Bryce, creating a question of whether or not the Blazers should switch it. So Bryce is on full throttle to the ball, and they've made him open by the route that Keyonte took. Thibault switches. Simultaneously, because Juzang had run off Kyle Filipowski, who was at the top of the key, they're switching. So you've got the Blazers, 4 defenders, all perfectly timed here. If you're watching this on YouTube, look, it's all happening at the exact same moment. So everyone's switching at the same time. Then Filipowski comes out and pops Thibault on an incredible pick. And Kyle's not a very good pick setter, so this was a great pick. Was Sensabaugh catching at the same time. Now, Sharp's responsibility would be to switch to Sensabaugh. But Sharp's going out the other way is now off the play, so Kamara's got to come to get Bryce. Filipowski, by the way, if Bryce slows down, Filipowski rolls, Filipowski's going to be wide open because he just put Thibault on the deck. But instead, Juzang, who was Kamara's man, who was being guarded by Kamara, goes to the corner. Sensabaugh delivers it perfectly. Johnny is wide open. Kamara makes a hell of a play to get back to him. Johnny has to rush it a little bit, and he misses the 3. But that's a hell of a play by Will Hardy. And this is just the level of orchestration here and execution late is impressive. One, you've got the 3 guys intermixing at the top. So the first decision that has to be made, it comes between Filipowski and Juzang at the top of the key, where Sharp has to switch onto Filipowski. Kamara switches onto Juzang. That's kind of why Juzang gets open, because Kamara very intelligently is reacting. The second switch was up with Thibault and Murray, and then Thibault gets popped right afterwards on a pick from Filipowski. That then means that Sharp actually should be the one. And if Kamara had done what most guys would have done, which is follow Juzang the whole way, Sensabaugh just rolling straight to the basket. But Kamara makes a really good play right here. This is what it took. It took Kamara making a really, really good play. If you watch it in real time, it is fast. We watch it in real time, and it is coming at you. There are a lot of decisions that had to be made in enough time to make that play. Pretty impressive. Okay, the next one is kind of out of the old, is actually a very Chris Finchy play. I don't know if Will likes that, but Chris Finch loves to throw the lob over the top on inbounds. When you watch Minnesota in the playoffs this year, you'll see this. He loves to run this stuff. Same formation. I don't think I just went to the same play. Now I'm nervous. Nope. Same exact formation. Okay? So, inbound Springer. Filipowski's at the top. Juzang, or in order, Keyonte, Juzang, Sensabaugh. Exact same formation. Juzang goes earlier this time. So, the timing's different, right? We watched it a moment ago. They all went at the same time. This time, Juzang goes a step early. Sensabaugh's running to the ball, creating the same action. Keyonte's going to the wing, it looks like. It looks like the exact same action. And I'm not sure that Juzang, that they should have gone early. And now a back pick by Keyonte. And Keyonte does something really good here. He picks his own man because they're switching, which leads the lob to Filipowski. It's not a great pass. Keyonte executes this really well because now he waits. If he comes too early, he screws the whole thing up. He waits, coming around, clear side. Again, great job by Will Hardy in the play. So you now have Kyle Filipowski catching on what was the far side on a loop over the top pass. Catches. He's free throw line extended on the far side. Just a step inside the three-point line in a two-point game. Keyonte had set his pick on his own man, then waited long enough. Now he's coming by for a handoff. Kamara, this is exactly what we talked about a second ago. Thibault is guarding Filipowski. Kamara is trailing because of that pick that was set a moment ago. We'll go back and look at it in a second. And they're going to switch this. So Keyonte comes across. Kyle fakes the handoff. Thibault takes a step like he's going to switch. Kamara's nowhere near anywhere to be able to switch to Filipowski because he's on the top side. Kyle turns the corner and jams it. That's where Kyle's really going to be something. So we watch this again. It's the exact same formation early. Juzang comes by. Kyle probably was supposed to set a pick there, didn't. So it's really the exact same play as we saw a minute ago. Now, Keyonte, first really good play by Keyonte. Picks his own. If you know they're switching, pick your own. Kamara is now caught way behind. Not a great inbound pass. Kyle makes a good catch. Keyonte waits long enough. Kyle makes the pivot. Keyonte coming across. Kamara is above Filipowski. No way he can get there. Thibault was stepping out to deal with what he thought was going to be a handoff to Keyonte. And Kyle Filipowski's going to the basket. Beautiful play. 2.8 seconds left, game time. That is something else. Off the same formation. I'll give Chauncey Billups credit too. This was pretty nifty inbound play. So, unfortunately, NBA.com doesn't start this in time. So this formation started. They're into their routes. This formation started with all four of their players in the backcourt, which unfortunately the NBA doesn't show. By the time we get to it, Johnny Juzang is guarding, and Kamara is sprinting to the basket. They're setting a back pick at the top so that this is the key to the play. Jabari Walker, Kyle Filipowski's guarding, and Kyle's standing at the top of the key. And it's up at the top. It's up at the free throw line. So 2.8 seconds left, tie game. Kyle's dropped back correctly. Sensabaugh's occupied on the far side. Kamara's sprinting down, and Kamara's going to end up in the post. But the Walker pick to free Sharp, which is part of the play, Kyle's pointing at, paying attention to, allows Kamara to go down into the post with all three of the Jazz other defenders lifted, worrying about what's happening at the top, while Thibault throws it down low to Kamara, and he just missed the layup. But that was a pretty nifty play by Chauncey Billups to be able to get that ball in that circumstance. Great plays by both coaches late. All right. Somebody in the NBA lost last night who never should have lost. It changes the standings. We'll look at it. Plus a huge game for the Jazz tonight. And what do the Wizards have left? It's next on Locked on Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. The swoosh you save, the NBA 50. Join Dash Pass and score a 50% off any 50-point game this year. That's right, NBA fans. When they swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more in an NBA game, you score a huge deal the next day. Thought we might have had a chance last night with Luka. It's simple. When a player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off up to $10 the next day from noon to midnight. So whether it's a game day feast, late night cravings, lunch on the go, or just fueling your watch party, take advantage of it the next time somebody scores 50. Sign up for the Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off any order the next day up to $10 off. Use the promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point NBA game. Eligible orders at participating merchants must have active Dash Pass. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. Thanks so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. By the way, Leaf Tulane will take next week. I'm going to take a week off, and he'll get you start getting ready for the draft. You'll hear Leaf, kind of me and Leaf working up to draft time, and then and he's an NBA draft expert, so in many ways he's better than I am this time of year. So be fun. And obviously we have the lottery coming up in May, and then we have the draft. All right. The Warriors lost last night to the San Antonio Spurs, who are not trying to win, while the Warriors are desperate for a playoff. Like, what happened? How do the Warriors, we're all wondering, thinking that the Warriors are supposed to be this, real playoff team. They lead all night, and they collapse down the stretch. Harrison Barnes hits a game winner, and the Warriors lose on a back end of a back-to-back. Sure, 114, 111. They're plus 13 with Steph on the floor. They're minus 17 in the not 11 minutes he's off the floor. Jonathan Kuminga gives them 18 minutes is all. That's a monster loss last night by the Warriors. So the way the standings now sit is, and the Clippers got a big win last night as expected, but this time of year, you can't lose games against teams that are not trying to win. So the way the standings sit now is Denver, Clippers, and Memphis are at 32 losses. The Warriors are at 33 and Minnesota's at 33. Lakers are at 31. If Minnesota loses to Memphis tonight, they virtually assure themselves that they're in the play-in. So from a Jazz fan standpoint, we're betting for a miracle here, but you want any chance of a miracle. The bigger miracle is Cooper Flagg. You want Minnesota tonight to lose to Memphis. And then they're in the play-in, which could end up playing the Warriors for 1 and out, which I wouldn't want to play Steph 1 and out. I wouldn't want to play Minnesota 1 and out either. Those teams are really good. Can you imagine if that's 7-8 in the West? Holy smokes. Clippers and Warriors play the final game of the regular season, what will be a mammoth game. Denver got a win over Sacramento last night. In Adelman's first game, very different. They stopped playing Russell Westbrook, so suddenly they're going to be much better. Why doesn't anyone ever listen? And Sacramento has a game advantage on Dallas for home court in 9-10. That's actually worth keeping an eye on. But anyway, we're looking for Minnesota to lose tonight. They can stay in 8, lose to Warriors or whomever they play in the playing game and then get upset by a Zach LaVine heater in the play and suddenly be out of the playoffs, we get their lottery balls. And that's the miracle that we're looking for. By the way, because you might be interested in wanting to know this, the Washington Wizards did win last night or lose last night. The Washington Wizards' final games of the season are at Chicago and at Miami. Two teams that, as of right now, are going to be likely playing each other in the 9-10 matchup, and both need to win the game to be able to hold their home court advantage. And Chicago's still got a chance to catch Atlanta to get out of the 9-10 game and into the 7-8 game. So therefore, I think it's unlikely, unless Miami really doesn't need to play on the last night of the year, that Washington could win another game this year. Just telling you. That is Locked On Jazz today. Thanks so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. Follow me on socials at DLock09. Sign up for the newsletter at LockedOnDaily.com and get the newsletter right in your inbox each and every day. And subscribe and follow the program. If you liked anything you got today, 5-star review would be greatly appreciated on iTunes, Spotify, or on YouTube. Hit that bell button to subscribe for the future so that you know whenever we have a program. We now send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel on Locked On NBA on YouTube. Get all the biggest stories at Locked On NBA 24/7, plus NBA Game Night, Locked On NBA, every game, every night.